think some of these teenagers read better than I do. I hope that you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope that wasn't where you got stabbed, Kelly. Thanksgiving lunch. Those can get intense sometimes, sure. I hope that you have a great season as well. It was around our table last night that the words 3 more weeks were said. And if you know, or if you have a kid in school or you're a teacher, particularly if you're a teacher, 3 more weeks means something right now. You have 3 more weeks until you get 2 weeks off. 3 more weeks until Christmas is in full force at the house. But until then, you've got to get up and you got to go to your job and you got to work. You've got to teach. You've got to, as children, as teenagers, you got to go learn stuff and then regurgitate it onto tests and papers and then forget it immediately, is what I'm told. As a teacher or teenager, you are longing for the day when you can rest. You can sleep in and maybe go shopping or hang out with friends. It is an exciting time, Christmas, for a lot of different reasons, but for kids, there's this hope that exists within it that something you want will show up. That something you've hoped for all year, or at least since you got the Amazon catalog and then they showed you what you wanted, that you've longed for up until this point. And now it's here. The day's arrived. You get the thing. Nolan told us yesterday, or earlier this week actually, that his favorite part of opening gifts is the stocking. He said, because it's the part that makes the most sense. I'm kidding. That's not what he said. He said it just keeps coming. It's just so much fun. You're just pulling stuff out of a stocking. He looks forward to the stocking. Other people look forward to the food or to the family gathering around. And as you get older, you look forward to different things. But in us always is hope. C.S. Lewis says that we have in ourselves a hope that cannot be realized here. This is why when we are excited about something that's coming up, a new hobby or a new relationship or a new job, it will be great, but it just quite never lives up to the thing. I remember I saw the ocean for the first time when I was 20 years old. They had taken us, but they had blindfolded us before then. I'm just kidding. No, that was the first time they took us. My parents took my brother and I, 20 and 19, to see the ocean, and we were like children in the back. I think I saw part of it. We were so excited. We'd never seen we're from Arkansas. We're landlocked. We'd seen lakes, but not a lake that'd go on forever. Frankly, we weren't even sure we believed in the ocean. We hadn't seen it. So we show up, and we weren't quite to our destination, but the road took us a path where we got to park and get out and go look. And I just stood there. This is the ocean. Where is lunch? Now, I'd seen lunch before. That had happened. I'd seen lunch. I hadn't seen the ocean. But once I got there, it was great and all, don't get me wrong. But it was about lunchtime also. That's how hope works in this life. You're excited about it, but once it arrives, the normalcy sort of weighs it down. Bogs it down. Your excitement wanes. We have within us a hope for something more. Because no matter the good we experience in this life, the good we experience in this life doesn't compare to the good we're hoping for when the Son of Man comes. It doesn't compare to the good we're longing for. Because we love being around our family, but there is always difficulty and brokenness amongst our family. There are empty relationships and empty chairs at the Thanksgiving table. And that always reminds us of, yes, family is good, but it hurts at times. Church is the same way. Now find me a perfect church. Not a church that thinks it's perfect. Those are all over the place. Find me a perfect one without squabbles or disagreements or power struggles even. God help us. Find us perfect marriages, perfect parents. It all falls short. Every great thing in this world falls short. And we're longing for something perfect. Jesus is talking to his disciples about a time that is going to come pretty soon. He says, the situation they are in is that they are the people of God. Jesus, an Israelite, born in Bethlehem, raised in Nazareth. Israelite. Peter, James, John, all these guys walk around with him. His friends, his disciples. They're all Israelites, and they are all under the same set of circumstances. They are followers of God who trust in God for their blessings, for their life, for God to come through. But right now, and they wouldn't say this out loud all the time, but right now it feels like the Romans are winning. Because in the land of Israel, the Romans have their guards, the soldiers walk the streets, the taxes are levied, and the people are poor. That this world isn't the world it feels like we were promised. This time isn't the time that it feels like we aren't winning this. And even as we saw, as we went through the Sermon on the Mount, the way of Jesus doesn't lead to a whole lot more winning. It's cheeks that are turned and lawsuits are dropped. The way of Jesus isn't one that gains power. The way of Jesus isn't one that allows me to get ahead in life. But it allows me to look like my Savior. And so looking around, we see the Roman troops walking by, and we see, I can't get out of line. I can't proclaim that Jesus is Lord in front of these guys. They'll kill me. And he says, one day, though, there will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. And on the earth, distress amongst the nation, confused by the roaring of the sea and the waves. Time out. Do not start astrology. Like, it's, I guess it's one of those things that is fun, maybe. But this is not telling you that if you pay close enough attention to the stars, then you can somehow, like be this Nostradamus and predict things. The sun, moon, and stars here is him saying that the heavens are going to see what's happening. That those that the heavens and the earth, there will be tension. And this is you're not supposed to take these sorts of scriptures and say, well, you know what, if you connect that back to Daniel and then connect that, then we were supposed to be gone in 2004. I don't even know what's happening. So far, anytime anybody's predicted the end of the earth, they've been wrong, from what I can tell. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I feel like we're still going. But here you can tell that the heavens and the nations and the waves and the seas are disrupted. And for them, the nations were these powers that oppressed them. And the seas, whenever it talks about the sea, it says it's this idea of evil that exists. You actually hear this language again in Revelation 21, where it says that the heavens and the earth will be restored, and he says there will be no more sea. It's not saying that the ocean is awful. It's saying our idea of evil in this world, it'll be gone. The sea will be tossed with waves. There will be signs. God's showing up. People will faint from fear and foreboding of what is coming upon the world. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. This is a way of referencing the powers, like the powers of the heavens are these people, the rulers of the world and their own little groupings. That the Rome had their people, and the Greeks had their people, and the Medes and the Parthians, and they all had their rulers and their sections, and they have divided out. And he's saying, those who divide us will no longer be in power. It is going to be frightful, and I don't like it when it's like this, foreboding. People will be nervous about what is coming, and then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. The promise of the Christian life is not just that God wins. It's that the victorious God shows up to his people, among his people. That the Son of Man will come in great power and glory. And in Luke here, particularly, Luke is connecting the way Jesus showed up with all this fanfare in Luke and the way Jesus will show up again. That God will show up and make an impact. That God will show up and change things for the better. The Son of Man will come in a cloud. And when he does, Jesus says, when these things take place, don't cower. Whatever your posture is for foreboding, don't do that. Stand up. Raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. When the rest of the world is saying everything's crumbling and falling apart, God shows up and restores it. When the rest of the world is saying we are overcome by our sin and our brokenness, Jesus shows up and forgives it. When God says that the world is, or whenever those in charge say that the world is just too bad and it just can't be done, it can't be fixed, God can fix it. God can restore it. Jesus will show up again, and we have that hope. And in this season of Advent, what we're placing ourselves in the feet of those who are longing for a Savior, particularly those who were in the Israelite world who were just longing for a Messiah. And we didn't know. We didn't know that Messiah was showing up for them and for us. But God, thank God, we have this King who showed up for us. Not just the Israelite people, but Benjamites or whatever I am. The Benjamites are Israelite. But whatever, I don't know. I think I'm English. I don't know. I haven't done the study. Please don't do it for me. Or something. But I'm not Jewish. I'm not Israelite people. I'm not part of that promise. But then when the King shows up, when I can stand up and raise my head. That when Jesus shows up, I don't have to cower. I know that this Jesus is coming and he restores for me. I want to look at that Jeremiah passage again, because the days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Israel and the house of Judah. In those days, see this same feel, right? It's not great now, but it will be good. That's what hope is. And our hope is in the thing we think will make the future better. Now for you, maybe even right now, that might be lunch. You can tell it's lunch for a lot of Christians on Sunday, because they get to the restaurant and lunch is disappointing. And they react with the anger as if their Messiah has failed them. They're furious at their waiters and waitresses, their wait staff, because this wasn't what I hoped for. Well, it's probably what you shouldn't hope in. This isn't what makes things better. Those days, at that time, I will cause a righteous branch to spring up for David, and he shall execute or put in place justice and righteousness in the land. In those days, Judah will be saved, and Jerusalem will live in safety. And this is the name by which it will be called: the Lord is our righteousness. You know, we may put our hope in a lot of things. But a lot of times those things aren't what can redeem us. They aren't what can actually offer us hope. They aren't what, those things do not save us. And maybe it's just like, if I could just do this, or I could just get that, or we could just get there, or pay off that debt, or do. And by the time you get there, the world's still broken. And the Son of Man still shows up. That's where our hope is. Our hope exists in the coming of the Lord. Both in the coming of Jesus to earth, to renew, to lead, to forgive, to be resurrected. Our hope exists there. But our hope is even further than that. That whenever the end shows up, whenever God shows up and makes all things new, there will be no more death. There will be no more hurt. There will be no more suffering. There will be no more power centers where some get a lot and others get very little. There will be no more balance like that, where it's unfair for one and the other. That we will exist in the presence of God, and that will be our wealth. That God's presence will be our riches. That we will no longer fight for one thing or another in our land. The whole land will be God's, and we will live in it. We will be free in that land, and we will have safety in that place. The Lord is our righteousness. Another way of saying that is the Lord is the way things get right. The Lord is the way things are made right. Things are wrong. We hope they're right. The Lord is our righteousness. That's that day that's coming. And in times of grief, in times of difficulty, in times of sorrow, in times of bickering and divisiveness, the Lord is our hope. Jesus is all we've got to hope in. Jesus is the only one that will not fail us. I'm a B minus, B plus husband and dad, right? I mean, I thought I was A plus, and then I watched Bluey, and then their dad's better than me. But like, I love being a husband and dad, and I fail at being a husband and dad. Right? Those two things exist. But that's the case for everyone in here, right? You want to be a thing, and you're not always that thing. That's the case for every single one of us. Jesus is the only one that won't let us down. And so our hope must be placed there. Otherwise, all of our life is just this jumping from one failed hope to another. For my kids to succeed, or my parents to have this, to leave me this sort of thing. It's just it doesn't happen that way. But when the Son of Man shows up, and we live in his hope, well, we can be rest assured, and I mean that. We can rest assured that the hope we find in Jesus, it's a hope that doesn't just happen on the horizon. It's a hope that happens right now in the middle of our life. We can be assured, rest assured, in what we know, that when Jesus shows up, and Jesus has shown up and he will show up again, that Jesus is our righteousness. That the only hope we have is in Jesus. Maybe you've been putting your hope in something that just has been failing the fire out of you, right? Does that happen? You've just been hoping in something and it just keeps failing? The problem is not that thing needs to get better. It's you need to find a different hope, a better one. And my only offer is Jesus. So if you want to put your trust, hope in Jesus, if you want to give your life to Jesus, or if you just need somebody to pray with you, you can always come forward. We also have people at the back. Our prayer team will be at the back, ready and willing to pray with you and for you. We want to go to God with you, because whatever it is you're wrestling with, we mean this. Our Jesus, our Father, the Spirit, it's your only hope in this life.